What would you like to tell us this morning on your behalf, sir?
I'd like to make an open statement.
Please do so now.
Yes. I am guilty of killing Mary Foreman. I am guilty of making criminal decisions before and during and after her death. It is with the great remorse and sadness that I remember the murder of Mary. She was my friend. I knew her children and extended family. She had come to visit me in prison in the 70s. It shamed me to think that I ran away in fear after I shot her once rather than try to help her. I may have called her for medical help, but she died alone without anyone by her side, and then I denied the crime. I apologize to Mary's family and to this parole board. In my previous parole hearing, I never adequately expressed my wrongdoing and remorse. I do it today. You may challenge my sincere by my court's appeal. Due to my last parole hearing on September 13, 2005, when for the first time, 20 years after the crime, the district attorney confirmed only one shot had been fired. Until then, it was their position, as testified to in grand jury and trial, that I fired 2 shots, which would negate my account of the crime, which I sent to you in my parole packet. With that new evidence, I pursued what I have always held to, that it was an accidental shooting of Mary. With that said, I want you to know, when I ran away after accidental shooting of Mary, I can accept that cowardly action, murdered her, because I could have hoped for her and gotten help sooner than I did. I am ashamed of this, and I want her siblings and children to know this. Mary was her siblings and children to know this. Mary was a good and faithful friend to me on October the 23rd, 1981. I was not a faithful friend. There was nothing I can do to relieve or amend the suffering. I called it her family. I only can say that Mary did not presume to die or to be abandoned after I shot her. I am so sorry for this. I murdered a mother, a grandmother, and my friend. I am sorry. Here's my right hand to God. Me and Mary never entered that building together that night. After 30 years of incarceration, I am asking to be paroled to a program. Thank you.
We talked about your institutional behavior. This is the last question I'll have for you before I turn to my colleague. I'm sure they have some questions for you as well. You've been sent to prisons all around. Is that right? You've had some problems with enemies in prisons in Massachusetts. Is that true, sir?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And do you want to say how you collected those enemies?
But for testifying for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
And what kinds of cases, sir?
Murder case.
Other murder cases. And how did you happen to have knowledge of other murder cases?
It was sold to me.
Okay. I'll give you one last chance before I turn to my colleague. Do you want to tell me why you should be paroled, sir?
I feel like I should be paroled because the 2 crimes that were committed, there has no connection other than the same person committed them.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there was no intention, none whatsoever with Mary Foreman. Mary Foreman's kids got up there and did what the district attorney told them to do. They testified in the first trial. They testified that they knew me. They didn't testify that I assaulted their mother. And never did. In the second trial, they testified that I assaulted their mother. If someone assaulted your mother, you're going to say from Front Street, yes, I know him. He assaulted my mother. Yeah, he's a bad guy. They didn't say that in the first trial. They came back with the second trial, what they were told to say. And I was shocked.
One of the things that Mr. Michael and Mr. Archia did is point out the pattern of conduct in your life. You apparently used your fist to batter Willie Mae Bond, and then you used your fist to batter Eva Perkins. Then you used a knife to kill Barbara Mitchell, and then you used a gun to kill Mary Foreman. If you were to receive parole, do you know what I see in my mind? What would be next? You go from fist to knife to handgun. What would be the escalation next if you got out? What weapon would you use next time?
Well, I can't have a girlfriend now. I can't have a woman now.
In preparing for this hearing and reviewing some of the facts and circumstances that have been previously brought out by Mr. Michael and Mr. Archia, I had come to the conclusion that you're an extremely dangerous person. And after today, after hearing how you described certain things, how evasive you were with Mr. Archia, how evasive you were with Mr. Michael, how you couldn't own up to certain things you've done, I now conclude that you're not only extremely dangerous, you're extremely deceptive. And that makes somebody a very poor candidate for parole.
You're telling me that you could not date a woman?
Yes.
And explain it.
Well, I've been injected with a drug and that causes me not to date a woman. I've been injected with that liquid drugs.
Okay, sir. Okay, I will leave it at that. So what would you tell, so is that what you would tell the women in the community, that you cannot date a woman so the community would be safe with you out there?
Well, I wouldn't approach a woman. What would I approach her for? I've been injected with that liquid drug for 2 years. And that castrates you.
Sir, I think that you should, a reality check of what's going on with you.
There is nobody here, sir, to speak on your behalf about your character, about your story, or affirming why you should be paroled. You should think about that, sir. That's pretty compelling.
Mr. Bond.
Yes.
Either you have the worst luck ever, or you just have no regard for human life. And I think it's the latter. And I say that because how many accidents does the Commonwealth have to forgive you or believe your story? He also threatened to kill the rest of us. And I am convinced that if he did anything in these 25 years, or 30 years, that he has plotted his plan well. I just want you to know something else about his character, is that at the wake, which is a very emotional time for us, of course, as you could imagine, he was riding by the wake with a gun waving and said, "I will finish the rest of you out," and that is something else that the family can vouch for. So we, this is a dangerous person still to our family, and we know he's not remorseful at all. I mean, there were so many details that he forgot in his little statement. There was no accidental shooting. He planned, and he beat and killed her.
I think what you cite as an example of lack of remorse is a very important thing to notice. That it's hard to say that somebody is remorseful if they're still dishonest.
Correct.
In fundamental and extensive ways about what happened. So I think that's a very valuable point to make.
I do know some other cases that he was involved in, and I'll just go ahead and say that Joan Webster case, his role in that. So that tells me, and I'm sure it tells the world, that this is just the mind of this individual. This is all he knows, and this is what he does. That he is very geared to murder things or things that is tragic to other families. And I'd just like to mention that Eva came on behalf of our family. We're so grateful for that. I'm sorry she didn't have the opportunity to share her statement. We would have liked her to, but we are grateful. We are aware of his involvement in her situation too.
Right. And Ms. Carson did send materials that we were able to see.
Mr. Bartolone is here from the Suffolk District Attorney's Office. Is there anything about the facts that you can please tell us, Mr. Bartolone?
Yes, again, Charles Bartolone, on behalf of the Commonwealth, here in opposition to the defendant's petition for parole. I'll be brief, obviously, due to the time frame, and I think brief also because I think it's clear from everything you've heard and read that he's nowhere, this defendant is nowhere near a suitable candidate for parole. The autopsy report, which I don't have, I don't know if the board has, and if not, I can get to, shows there was one gunshot wound from left to right, basically in a straight pattern, from one side of the ear, between the ear and the eye on the left side, and exiting the ear and the eye on the right side. This was no accident. He wasn't falling off, dust in his eyes and shooting. This was a straight-on shot, through and through, respectfully, and there was no angle up and down or sideways. This was respectfully point-blank shooting. This, obviously, he's a batterer. He considers women to be either second-class citizens or whatever, but he has a whole history of beating women through his whole life. In fact, there's medical reports that are in the file from August 23rd of 1981, about 2 months before this, in which Miss Fulmer was beaten so badly she ended up in the hospital. There's nothing I suggest that he's told you here other than being cold-blooded, emotionless, vague. I think even he realizes that he's not going anywhere, based on some of the answers that he's from you board members here today. I don't even think in his mind, from what you've heard, that
Mr. Bartolone, some of the documents that you referred to, I will ask you to provide.
Certainly.
We'll send you an email, which those we need.
Absolutely.
And cold-blooded and vague are two good descriptions of his testimony today. And I'm sure you would recognize that people who have something to say against you might have some concern about saying it against you, given your propensity to kill people.
yeah, my heart goes out for the family. We're